What is up, soccer friends? Welcome to Kickback Committee. We are glad you are here. I'm Susannah Fuller alongside my very good friend, David Goss. We've got a big week of soccer. It's been a big week. It's going to get even bigger this weekend. But for me, one of the biggest sort of news items, I think, is that you got to see Landon Donovan's hairpiece up close and personal when you were at the US match in Austin. And so now I need you to divulge how it looked, IRL.
Yeah.
Is he happy? What's going on?
So I might be a sucker because I get sucked in by people and I'm around people and people are nice. And so then I'm like in favor of it. I thought it looked good in person. I thought it blended in, and his point was like, oh, I'd like to have hair and be a person with hair. And like, I felt like during the conversation, I forgot. Like, I forgot that it wasn't real or wasn't his. And then I think you also look differently maybe at the person. And I don't know that I'm like, oh, this is a different human being, but it's like, I don't know. If you had asked me 25 minutes into our conversation about it, I would have been like, oh, I forgot about that. And I don't know if it changes in any way the way you react to the person. This is all I mean, he told me I shouldn't do it because he's like, my look is a look and I look good, which was a compliment. So now he's already buttered me up. He gave me many compliments throughout the show. So now I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm in the bag on all of this. I will say from video and photos, I didn't know that I liked the style he had chosen, and I liked it more in person. And I might be a fan.
This is I don't want to say I'm shocked, but I think so. When this whole thing happened, when he like initially put out that message on social media of like, guys, it's time for me to do something about this. I've been dealing with this for a long time. There was a part of me that thought, do you remember when Snoop Dogg did that whole campaign and it was like he was going to quit smoking weed? Like it was like a long con. And I thought that perhaps this was like, he had partnered with some like...
This was his second team.
Yes.
He was with Gillette now.
Yes.
He's going to shave his head.
Exactly. Like it was going to be something like that. And I was like, okay, clever.
Yeah.
But now, like, especially after hearing your take on all of this, it seems like, you know, this was like something that he took incredibly seriously. He did a very large amount of research on, because, you know, he had tried different things to address the balding, but you know, he clearly was bothered by it.
So all the messages I got after posting a photo with him was like, whoa, what's the hair like? And then everyone's like, go to Turkey. And it's like, is flying to a foreign country halfway around the world and getting a surgery easier than this? I'm not saying it's not, but it's like said in a way in a message where you're like, that feels very simple. Like, maybe I should respond it to everyone. Like, when was the last time you all went to Turkey? Now, I have no negatives there. I would love to go to Turkey. It sounds like a great place. I've been once. Great food, great history, great culture. I read books about it all the time. I watched their soccer game yesterday.
Their soccer games are crazy.
Yeah,
like
club games there, amazing.
Nuts.
So I'm not anti that, but everyone's like, just go. It's like, that's the casual, easy thing. That doesn't seem so simple.
Well, the thing is that
and
like you've got guys like Mo Salah who, you know, have copious amounts of money and like are like, okay, I can go to Turkey and address this and, you know, get the best sort of procedure done. So I feel like we've had this conversation in soccer circles now because there's been the Wayne Rooneys and the Mo Salahs of the world that have done something about the receding hairline. So,
in the NBA, it's like kind of a tattoo that you do. So like the Doc Rivers, I don't know if Doc Rivers ever said this out loud, but like we all know Doc Rivers. And so it's like fake short haircut. I think LeBron does that as well. I guess that's a different culture. So maybe that's why it's done. But yeah, I learned a lot about it. Not all about it, but I learned a lot about it. It seems like it's a level of work. Like you have to get it reset up and all of that. But yeah, the first moment he walked in, you're like, whoa. And to the point of like, is this real? My producer and my co-host, Megan Klingenberg, who did an awesome job on the show, we had 2 rundowns set up because we were not sure if it was real. And like, he hadn't been on anything yet. So we were like, building out a show plan for if it was there or if it wasn't, because to your point, we had no idea how real this was.
Damn, that's why you're a professional. The
Yeah,
ultimate pro, guys.
Dot your I's and cross your T's.
Respect.
Yeah.
That's incredible. At any rate, he seems really happy with it. And to me, that's all that matters. As somebody who is now very well versed in fake hair, I am wearing the wigs. This is a new one, actually. If you're watching
not
this,
Grace.
you can see. This is not Grace. This is Jolene.
Okay.
We named her Jolene.
I was going to ask, could we not go through the 4 different ways to spell Suz and name each one Suz, but in a different
A
spelling?
different variation of Suz.
Yeah,
I know.
except speaking wouldn't really help.
Well, exactly. But yeah, we had this debate how to spell Suz, and it's there's many versions. But yes, this is Jolene. She's making her debut today, and
Okay, looks great.
I really like her. Thank you. Super pleased with it.
So are they all styled differently?
Yes. This one is a little shorter than Grace. And it's like a little more blunt cut. And then I put some waves in it. But you have to like style it like when it's not on your head. It's such a crazy thing. But it's real human hair. And so I can sympathize with Landon Donovan and his like, okay, there's maintenance involved.
Yeah.
Like you've got to take care of
He has to
yourself.
get
Also,
it cleaned. Yeah.
Not cheap,
No.
guys.
Does not seem to be at all.
No, but
Yeah.
I'm happy for him, and I'm glad when you said like you kind of forgot, like you were talking and just didn't even realize, like that's exactly what he probably wanted.
Yes.
And that makes me feel good.
Made a little bit harder because he did a whole public campaign around it. But I guess if you're Landon Donovan and you show up with hair, everyone's going to notice anyway. There's no way to like casually do it. Yours is a little different because you look kind of like the way you looked.
Yeah.
If I did it, everyone would be like, you look different today than you did yesterday. What the hell just happened?
Yep.
So you kind of have no choice than to lean into it. I will say this, for anyone who doesn't know, so I host a U.S. Soccer podcast, the official show for U.S. Soccer. We had Landon Donovan. We did a live show on Friday. It is coming out now when you are listening to this. It was World Mental Health Awareness Day, and he's writing a book about his life.
Amazing.
And it was a very intense conversation. It was an hour long, and we talked about his residency. Like, we talked a lot of soccer stories, soccer ideas, thoughts, but we talked about mental health for 25, 30 minutes, and it was intense. And he is so open and honest. And part of what he said about the hair thing, which he has said about when he talks about depression publicly, is it helps people. There are people out there who don't feel like they're the only ones going through it, or that they don't really understand what's happening to them. And then when he explains how he's feeling, it helps other people. So he said the outreach he got about the hair was like crazy. That not only was it thousands of people, he said a lot of people have done it that were like, oh, here's what you can do, or here's how that he would not have known did it, which was fascinating to you.
It's 100% true. And it God, man, that hits home so much, because going through chemo, honestly, like the physical side of this, like I can deal with, like there are days when I'm tired. There are days when I just, don't feel all that great. Losing my hair has been the worst part. And for that reason, it's like looking at yourself and you don't recognize who you are anymore. And I've heard from a lot of women who have gone through this, and it's such a part of your identity, and it's really, really hard. And I think like I can fully understand like how grappling with that can just be so seismic when you're talking about it in terms of mental health, because it's how you perceive yourself, and it's how you want to project yourself to the world. And for Landon Donovan, who is this like very public figure, that had to be incredibly difficult. And I commend him so much, because he's making people feel a lot less alone who are going through this. And it's tough, man. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I've thought a lot about just the plight of women that have gone through this, and losing the hair part, and it's going to be one of my missions. I'm going to I want to do things to make this accessible, like getting the wigs, helping people get the hair, because this has been so helpful for me. Like, I can put this on and feel like myself again. But it's not cheap. It's not cheap at all. And I really, really feel like there's got to be some ways that we can make this more accessible for people who are struggling, men and women. Breast cancer doesn't affect just women. It affects men as well. So good on Landon Donovan. I'm happy that he's happy, and I applaud him for being so transparent about his journey with this. And
who knew that hair would open us up so much and bring us all together?
I know.
You never know what the topic will be.
You just don't know. Speaking of not knowing the topic, before we got on today, you said, okay, hold on. There's something that you need to see, and you wanted it to be a surprise. So David Goss is going to enlighten me with something that Vancouver did on their socials.
This is the time of year where MLS and NWSL seasons are coming to a close. MLS Decision Day is on Saturday. So all of the playoff teams will be decided. That's the end of the regular season. So some teams, not enough, will be eliminated because there's too many teams that make the playoffs. Then we will be into the postseason. We will cover it here at Kickback Committee. And then NWSL has an international break coming up. We will talk about the U.S. Women's National Team roster coming out. And then the playoffs start. And the NWSL Championship is like November 19th. So it's a pretty quick sprint to get there. And this time of year, as you know, there is award voting that occurs. And inside of award voting, there is a little bit of politicking, and some of the PR teams in different clubs will try and help some of the candidates in their team. So we're talking about MVP, we're talking about coach of the year, goalkeeper of the year. And so the PR teams will kind of send sometimes gifts, sometimes, news, normally combined. So the Vancouver Whitecaps are pushing for their first-year Danish head coach, Jesper Sorensen, to be coach of the year. And Jesper, I guess they would consider, wears a slightly iconic sweater to every game. And so they sent a turtleneck.
No.
With a pin that says "Vote yes for Jesper."
Stop.
Like,
this is so good.
First of all, I'm going to give the full shout out here. It is Uniqlo, which I love. People can complain about fast fashion, whatever they want. But it's a Uniqlo turtleneck sweater, which I probably won't wear that much in Miami. But it's like arguably the greatest thing you could give. And he was wearing, so they played at Orlando this week. So he wore, I think it was an open sweater so that he could get a little breeze in. But for the most part, we all know the Scandinavians, how they love it. They go with the turtleneck. And I thought this was genius. And it was right up your alley.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Oh my
Should I try and put it on?
Do it.
Would we allow Ian to wear this on the sideline?
Yeah, of course. He's not really a turtleneck guy, but I feel like this is very classy. Oh yeah. Oh gosh. Yep.
I probably should have taken the tag off first.
It's so good.
I feel so European right now.
You look European.
God. Do I go fold down or do I keep it up?
Let's see. Yeah, if you want to do flip fold down, that's a little more like mockish. You can let the neck breathe a little. I like this.
I look a little bit more like a film writer now than I did before, I look like I worked for an old school tech company out of Germany.
Very artistic right now.
This is unreal. This is so comfortable, by the way.
It is so good. Okay, so see above me this Hani Mukhtar record. So this was from a few years ago when Hani was going for MVP, and Nashville created these actual records with the goal calls on them.
Which is
at the time, I was like, this is the most clever, best sort of promo from a club that I have seen to garner votes for their guy. I think this Uniqlo sweater takes the cake.
Vote for Jesper.
Vote for Jesper. Anyway,
the funny part is then we had Michele Giannone on Soccer Wise yesterday, and I think we're both voting for him anyway. But now I'm worried that people think I'm tainted.
It works.
Yeah.
It works. Well done, Vancouver. Oh my God, it's so good, so good. All right, well, guys, we've got a pretty packed show. We haven't even hit on the U.S. guys because they had a pretty outstanding performance against Australia last night, a 2-1 win. We are going to chat with Brian Dunseth, who is a former US and MLS defender, current analyst for the MLS and US. He was on the call last night, so we're going to get his take on that performance. We are going to get you up to speed on some World Cup qualifiers because, as always, as we hit on last week, there's some really fun storylines and some chaos happening. Shocker. We're going to take our 50 States of Soccer tour to Arizona and dive in a little bit into that. And, of course, it wouldn't be a Kickback Committee episode with David Goss if we weren't going to do a Great British Bake Off recap. This week was really, really fun. So with that, let's welcome in Brian Dunseth to the Kickback Committee. Brian, so good to see you. I miss you, but more importantly, thank you so much for taking the time to join us because I know you are fresh off a flight from Denver as you were on the call last night for the U.S. match. How you feeling?
I'm a little bit tired. Yeah, I got to be honest with you. The Rocky Mountain high was more of the Rocky Mountain bounces all the way back to Salt Lake City, where I was joking with you guys. I think I'm still wearing a little bit of the young lady's coffee who was sitting next to me in 3B. Rough life. But I came home to a flat tire, to an 8-year-old that had to get to school, and a printer that hasn't been working. And for all of us in the broadcast world that needs their stickers for prep, it's a very perilous situation that you find yourself in. So I'm holding on by a thread, but I'm so excited to see you guys. I miss you guys so much, and thank you for allowing me to join you for a few minutes.
This will be your respite for the day, Dunny. Just take like 15 minutes where you can just kind of tune out all the chaos.
Yeah,
that's what
we're
great. Here for.
Don't ask me about Manchester United, and everything will be A-okay.
Yeah, no, we won't do that to you. Not today. Maybe
with the Y and WA behind.
I know.
Things aren't going especially great for.
Well established.
Right,
one bad week last year, one bad week this year. Everything's gonna be fine. I'm not worried about y'all.
Lord. All right. So Dunny, you were obviously on the call last night for the U.S. match against Australia, a 2-1 win, 2 goals for Haji, right? Now that you've had kind of probably a few hours to digest the result and the performance, what is your assessment about how the way the United States played in that match?
Yeah, I think, Susannah, I feel even stronger than how I felt in the post-match. In the post-match, I was trying to figure out a way. You guys know this. When you react instantly, there's a very passionate response, especially when you feel like certain things could go certain ways. And I tried to step back for a second, take a deep breath, and think about 2 windows. And especially because this is effectively the last standalone October window we're ever going to see. Now that next year they're doing this September-October kind of 3-week hybrid 4-game window. So I tried to look at it as what happened in New Jersey against Korea Republic, what then happened in Columbus against Japan, and then taking Austin and the game last night in Denver. And in my mind, I tried to calculate, if you take away that first 45 minutes and you take away the mistakes and you take away the idea of the press and breaking through the lines and the quick transition, and then Son Heung-min, who's just absolutely one of the best human beings on the planet, on top of one of the elite strikers in world football, still at this stage, man, we played some really good soccer. We played some really good football. And again, I know I'm not naive to the conversation on social media, even though I got rid of that thing 4 years ago, thank God. Even though I still have a burner account just to make sure.
Come to Blue Sky. That's the place you want to be.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm over there. There. But you know what happened is I got so used to not being involved in the narrative in the conversation. I'm in my Keanu Reeves mode, my stage of life where 2 + 2 = 5. Gotcha. Have a great day. I'm going to go grab a cup of coffee. So that's where I'm kind of out of my phase of life. So as I'm paying attention to the narratives and I'm understanding what's happening, and we have this crazy kind of nuanced conversation about experiment versus opportunity of player. In this weird kind of context, I look at these, my math isn't great, 7 halves. Cal State Fullerton pass or fail, once again passed. I look at a lot of positives, man. I look at a formation where all of a sudden, even last night I was with Bees, and I'm thinking if you put Jedi on the left or you keep Tim on the left and then you throw Alex on the right and you think about Mark and you think about Chris and you think about Miles, you think about Matt, damn, we're big. We got athletic. We're like huge. And then I'm thinking about, okay, who's going to play next to Tyler? Well, I like Tanner. I like Aiden. Christian's been fantastic. Man, James was pretty good the other night. And then I'm thinking, do we really have wingers, or is this best the system to be played? And who plays next to Christian? Because, man, Malik's pretty good. Zendejas is really good. Luna, he's been pissed and frustrated, and he's really impactful off the bench. What about Brendan Aronson? All of a sudden, he's got like little happy feet, and he's chopping all over the place. And then I think about Flo up top, and then Haji drops too. And I'm still thinking about Patrick being raw. I'm thinking about Ricardo Pepi coming back. And all of a sudden, like, I'm optimistic about everything, as opposed to, man, we suck. He plays in MLS. He shouldn't be a part of the national. I'm like, all right, let's go. And then I saw Chris Richards afterwards, and I was lucky enough to get to know him from our time at FIFA Club World Cup together. And I'm like, man, somebody, like, if Christian goes out, you guys got to send a message. Like, man, if I didn't get that BS yellow card, I was going to crush somebody. And like, I'm like, all of a sudden, like, I'm hyped. I'm ready to go. So I think, long explanation, I feel really good, and I can't wait, because even in the conversations I had with Coach Pochettino,
Perfect.
you know, I'm sitting there having these conversations, like, I'm a big advocate of playing against Ecuador and Argentina and playing against, you know, Brazil and Colombia and Paraguay and Uruguay. And he was like, why? And I was like, DUNSETHERY. I like the dark arts. I like manipulation. I like extra tackles. I like messages. And even Australia was lumping the crap out of us. And I was like, I want to see how these guys respond. I want to see how they stick up for each other. I want to see teammates, camaraderie. I want to see nuance and culture and everything that he's been talking about, as opposed to Nations League and Gold Cup and who's not there and who is there and who wants to be. I'm so glad we're past it. So I see a lot of like genetic DNA of what I would want to see in my quote unquote U.S. men's national team.
So that's, I think, for me, I've been texting this morning actually with a group of Canadian friends, and like we both came out of this window watching our teams, kind of being in a similar space of like, where do we stand? Where's it at? They're asking me about our team. I'm asking about their team, and they were sort of like, what's the deal? Like, and I'm like, it's the best I've felt about the team probably since the 2022 World Cup. But then they asked me all the spots that are locked in. And I'm like, well, I don't really know, but I'm not worried about that. And I think, to me, as I tried to figure this out, it came down to the culture side, which was, I think those last 3.5 games you talked about from the South Korea through to now is the most you felt like they're on the same page. They're playing for each other. Like all of the non-tactical soccer part, it feels like is at its highest since the World Cup that they played in. And I'm curious, from being around it and talking to Mauricio and watching them interact all, like, what is it inside the camp that's happening? And can you put your finger on watching this happen?
Yeah, it is. How do I explain this correctly? Because we've being a part of Turner and TNT's coverage, we've been around kind of the Berhalter era leading into Copa America, and getting slapped around a few times, even going back to the nuance and the love affair of trying to attract Flo Balogun to make that one-time switch, and going through and watching BJ Callahan, love him, legend, what an unbelievable human being, put together that run that he had before taking over Nashville, and congratulations to him on the U.S. Open Cup trophy. And then seeing this with Mikey Veras, as the interim manager against, what was it, Canada and New Zealand, and then having kind of this getting to know Mauricio Pochettino and his coaching staff, and understanding Mickey D'Agostino, and understanding, Jesus, and understanding Tony Jimenez, the goalkeeper coach, with Jack Robinson being off the shoulder, and, just his core group. And it's such a family. It's that when I try to convey this, it's so fascinating watching this elite manager, right? And we have these like visions of like top 3 finishes in the Premier League and Champions League finals where, one deflection or one decision goes in a different direction. Yeah. And they've won a Champions League, to watch him at PSG and managing Messi and Neymar and Mbappe and all of these things, to come in and Chelsea, obviously, and then to get to know him. He's the most down-to-earth kind of human being, when, like, walking around, and you guys have been there, when, at training, he walks around and says, hello, how are you? Shakes her hand. There's a lot of connectivity. And then to see kind of the way that the summer went, I'm trying to figure out, because I wasn't there. Obviously, that's Paramount Plus, and they did incredible coverage. And obviously, I work with Tony Miola, and he's on the ground, and we're kind of sharing stories and what we're seeing, and trying to figure out from a fan and a former player perspective. And now what I see is, however we define culture, we all kind of have our own kind of understanding of at least how we think about how we would try to assess what culture looks like. But whatever that looks like, and we are unlucky that we don't get to understand what the meetings look like, and the lunches look like, and the dinners look like, and the camaraderie and the tables, and who's nuanced with who, and the little groups. And I can remember, they're the German guys, or they're the Spanish speaking guys, or they're the American guys, or those are the MLS guys, or those are the European guys. We had all these little like cliques, and there's certainly that's always going to be there with familiarity. But it feels like when I am there match day -1 for the last year, I see a group of guys that really like each other, a group of guys that have grown up with one another. And even Haji Wright was like, hey, by the way, I've been with these guys since we were like 13, 14 years old doing regional camps. And I think that gets lost in sometimes of these conversations. But something happens. And it's like the moment that all of it, and it's weird, like Pochettino's off to the side, he's chilling out, he's going through his own thing, the activation, the warm-ups are happening. And all of a sudden, these guys like, bam, they lock in. And there's like this, like the eyes tight, the eyeballs tight. And then the focus is like, dude, I want to play. Like, you're playing in my position? Like, no, I got to play. Like, everything's a little bit harder. Everything's a little bit faster. Everything's a little bit more succinct. And then, without the understanding of how these training sessions have looked in the buildup of the week, all of a sudden you get that starting 11 happening. But shoulders, like, you're not seeing like the slumping of the shoulders, right, or the attitudes, or like the flicking of the pennies, or any of that stuff, because all of a sudden the coaching staff is like, small side, let's go. And like, I think all these guys, and what I'm trying to describe is like, opportunity and jeopardy are like, there's not much in between. And I look at all these guys and I'm thinking to myself, like, say Diego Luna, for example. I'm thinking about Diego Luna gets to start against Korea Republic, and then all of a sudden they switch to a back three, which means Pulisic plays a little bit higher, and Luna's playing off his shoulder, and all of a sudden they get about 10 minutes, and then Zendejas gets his opportunity. And then Zendejas gets the next game. And, then what, is Luna like frustrated or pissed that he didn't get the 90 minutes playing in the hybrid of three in the back? Because now he's higher and it's less of a defensive role. And so like, it almost like allowed me to think about, again, opportunity and jeopardy, kind of this weird friction that's happening right now. And I think about the match day -1. I think about the games. I think about substitutions and impacts. And I'm thinking to myself during the broadcast, it's not about who's going to make the roster. It's about who doesn't deserve to be in contention for the roster when that World Cup kind of final 26-man list comes about. And so I'm always looking for like these micro points, these like little data points of like who's performing at such an elite level that Mauricio almost doesn't have an excuse to not bring him in for the next camp, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think one of those guys that certainly we could insert into that conversation that had a tremendous game last night. And honestly, I think that Kickback Committee can kind of take credit for the re-emergence, I should say, of Christian Roldan, because we literally willed it into existence on this podcast about a month ago. But when you talk about, Poch is a vibes guy. The vibes, the culture right now feel really, really good. And there's a lot of reasons to be positive. When there is a player like Christian Roldan, who was seemingly kind of on the outs in terms of being included into these rosters, suddenly he's had 2 camps where he has made a significant impact. I know Christian Roldan. I know we all know Christian Roldan. He is a wonderful kid, just a really, really great human and a talented soccer player who perhaps has been overlooked, maybe because he plays in MLS or, if you want to follow that narrative. But when a guy like that, Dunny, has a performance or collective performances as he's had in the last couple camps, how much does that sort of elevate the vibes, because you see guys getting a chance, and you see that Pochettino is willing to give guys like that a chance, and also to have a chance to have a significant impact on the results.
Susannah, I'm so glad you brought him up, because I can vividly remember covering the Pac-12 network and going to University of Washington and seeing Craig Weibel and talking to Jamie and the coaching staff. And Christian Roldan was either a junior or a senior. And they were telling me the story about how he was the last, for his recruitment year, he was the last player handed a scholarship. And I'm almost positive I'm telling this story correctly. Because everybody knew he was a great player, but he went largely unrecruited until UW came into play. And I say this about Luna because, obviously I'm up here in Salt Lake City and I've covered him for a lot of years, and a kid that's bet on himself from day one. Well, Christian Roldan is that same player from Southern California. He and his brother have bet on themselves, and the path less traveled has led to so many different opportunities, because I was also hosting the MLS draft, and I believe it was in Philadelphia when Real Salt Lake had the next pick. And that's when Garth Lagerwey had gone to Seattle. And Garth comes over, and Craig Weibel had just been promoted to being general manager of Real Salt Lake. And in this weird turn of events, Bill Manning wanted a certain amount of money, and it ended up, and by the way, this was also Will Johnson, Kyle Beckerman, Ned Grabavoy midfield for Real Salt Lake. So I can understand the thought process, but they end up trading him to Seattle. And, Bill Manning's like, fleeced him. And Garth Lagerwey's like, ooh, you don't realize what a great player we just got. And again, the opportunity at the time, post Ozzy Alonso and thinking about the midfield, like he could grow into it. Whereas maybe at Salt Lake, the path doesn't, there's a glass ceiling very, very quickly. So as I try to tell that story and try to put this together, Christian has always bet on himself. And to your point, he's not a kid, Susannah. We're just really old at this point. I think he's 30 and he's got his own kids. But yeah, I mean, we forget that this guy was 2022 Qatar World Cup roster player. Mm-hmm. And Mauricio and Jesus, we were sitting with him and we were asking specifically about Christian. And I was always wondering, and I never asked this, I never got it confirmed, but I always wondered, was Mauricio given a list of players to familiarize himself with, and this is the pool,
right?
And if that was the case, or probably not. I mean, that probably does a disservice and disrespect to how much due diligence Mauricio and his staff do, because they are so much more in depth than people give them credit for. And I think that's where he took. He wasn't really happy with the idea of experiment. The words experiment with the roster. But obviously, watching Christian Roldan, whether it would be CONCACAF Champions League, Major League Soccer, FIFA Club World Cup, or in Leagues Cup, his partnership with Obed Vargas has been one of the best in Major League Soccer, easily. So to him have his opportunity to come in and be, Tyler Adams and be bosses in the midfield and moving the ball around, and then to see him with either Tanner Tessman or Aiden Morris or with James Sands, you realize really quick, he's really, really good. And again, it's the whole Kyle Beckerman thing. I think it was the Paul Arriola thing. It was this weird, let's eat our own because he doesn't play at a certain level. And if he is as good as we think he is, why isn't he in Europe? Everyone's got their own path. This kid is incredibly talented. And I love that I was in the hallway when he pushed back on this, when people are like, oh, you're a great locker room guy. Oh, you're a great roster guy. He goes, oh, whoa. I want to play. Yeah, but I want to play here. So can we stop with it? He tried to take control of this narrative. And he was excellent. He was excellent. And I can't see a world in which Mauricio Pochettino doesn't think this guy does so many great things off the field, does so many great things on the field, and he could be an advocate for the younger players. Yeah, I think he was definitely, when we do winners or losers column, he's most certainly in the winners column.
Yeah, it's awesome to see. I was at that draft too, and I remember he was supposed to be a top 2 or 3 pick.
Yeah.
But the reality was no one was going to draft an American attacker. And it just kept falling, and no one knew where he would land. And what Seattle bet on, what Garth bet on, which is he's a gamer, and he'll figure it out. And that's literally what his entire career has been, and that's what Mauricio Pochettino's in love with. Yeah. Of And I thought it was interesting. You talk about little data points. U.S. Soccer put out a video where all the players getting on the plane said who would they sit next to. And I thought it was interesting that Pulisic and Christian Roldan both said each other like immediately, because Roldan's not been on this team for the last 2-3 years. So they haven't really been together. They didn't grow up together in that cult of people. I think it is people respect him and want to be around him. And I think he has that effect on and off the field, to his point. And
by the way, they were both warming up match day -1. They were doing Mauricio's got some warm-ups, man. His strength and conditioning activation staff has some things. And like one of them was like rubber bands and like pulling and push. And it was those two. It was the Christians that were right next to each other. So to your point, not surprised. Yeah. I haven't heard, outside of being antagonistic on the field, like guys like, I hate that guy, but like I'd love to play with him. He's one of those where he'll bitch, he'll moan, he'll bark, he'll bite. He'll do all those things. But he's certainly one of those guys. Like when you have a chance to get to know him, yeah, he's an A+ character.
So you said you're off social media. You don't follow Pochettino on Instagram, then?
I saw, I saw all the Culture Eats. What was it, like the Chick-fil-A guy? And Culture Eats.
Chick-fil-A chairman. Yeah.
There you go.
Culture Eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah. I mean, we all have our. I think
Suz actually has that memorized. She says it every morning.
I think it's great
my
though.
mantra.
Yeah, but listen, we've all been in the offices, and especially in this business, right? Like, there's people that exalt themselves on social media and act like they're the best human beings ever, and you're like, and then there's other people that are just outright, you're just like, So,
and then Dunny's throwing 90s throwback stuff all the time.
I mean, well, yeah, I'm like 80s and 90s on Instagram.
I'm your target audience for that.
I only get half.
It's crazy. Like
it's
now
so
my
good.
TikToks are even going deeper, and I'm like, oh, so now we're just going to go aliens and like 80s commercials? Okay, cool. Like I'm here for it. No, but I it's funny. We were having this conversation about like his animals and his social media and like the media obligations. And I think we forget like how big he really is at times. But it's a different world. Like the way that you and I, the three of us connect on like a human basis, how we connect via our phones and we stay together and like we can pick up right where we left off, or we can send a note like, hey, congratulations, or hey, I'm thinking about you, or hey, all these things. This next generation, they act differently, they connect differently, they need something differently. Like my kids, they don't follow soccer games or soccer teams. Except Micah, he's been cursed with Manchester United. But like my other boys, like they want to watch TikTok or they want to watch YouTube or they want to look at FOTMob, and that's how they follow games. They want players. They don't want teams. So I feel for Mauricio, like the connectivity and getting people's attention and their buy-in, it has to be a little bit differently. But I agreed with the quote. I thought it checked the boxes that it needed to check without being too over the top. Kind of like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever, bro.
Yeah, no, I would agree with it, and it's a good message, and it's kind of universal. I think we can all attest to that. Dunny, I'm curious to kind of get inside your head a little bit about does Mauricio Pochettino know right now who is going to be on that World Cup roster? Has he made up his mind at this point? Or because I feel like the last window we were like, well, this is going to be the last window where he's actually assessing players and taking stock of what's in front of him. And it seems like
this is it.
Different
But
players.
except Tanner Tessman,
exactly.
and Hayden Forrest, and
Hold on, let me get my notebook out. I got some names.
But we have another one coming up in November. So, is that the final window in which he will be making decisions? Or do you think, knowing him a bit that you do now, do you think that it's locked in? His World Cup roster is already been determined in his mind?
No, but I think he's got a really good idea of the guys he can trust. And it was interesting because Katie Witham, who was filling in for Sarah Walsh, did a fantastic job at the desk hosting. Katie kind of like just jutted out the way that we wrote down the starting 11. So what we had seen is can you explain this? And we're like, whoa, like let's massage a little bit. Let's get into it before we're just like straight up bam. And he looked at it, and it was interesting because, again, you guys know this. Like, we put starting 11s up, and it's like, they're going to play in a 4-3-2-1. And the coach is like, not with the ball. We're going to play a 3 build out with 2 holding and teeter-tottered left, and this guy's going to roll, and like all these things. And so I was trying to explain, hey, as broadcasters, as analysts, the fan base is looking for some type of like duality in what you're trying to do with what they understand. So how can we like convey properly? And it's easier for me as like a broadcaster when I'm like being an analyst on the game and calling a game versus like, here's my role at the desk. So I've got to find a very unique way of communicating differently and more succinct and sharper. But he was very adamant, and it felt like I was trying to read through the lines and think to myself, okay, he doesn't want to get married to a 3 in the back system, even though that was his very first game against Panama a year ago in Austin, and we've seen him play with 4. He was very clearly trying to say, like, I want to be able to bounce it like the way that I think and the way that our approach looks like and how I see the game, and this is what we're doing. And so he was kind of giving us insight to it. But with this specific formation, it seems as if Freeze is the number 1 since he started 10 of the last 11 games. I still want Matt to make like that big save, right? Like I think he only faced 6 shots in this window, and like the 2 goals, I'm like, man, do we got like a Timmy or a Brad or a Tony or a Casey or a Friedel like can get to it, like can really like make that. Because then my concern is like, do we have more than 2 goals a game in us? Do we have more than 1 goal a game? And so I think about the back 3, and I think it's really 4 players. It's Tim, it's Mark, it's Chris, it's Miles. You think about left back, it's Jedi, right? If Jedi's healthy, it's got to be Jedi. Well, now we know Weah and Arsene. At right back, man, Freeman. I like Freeman. But Serginho Dest, I like Serginho Dest even more. And by the way, Tim Weah can play on that side as well. Tyler's the guy, right? So who plays next to Tyler? That's the question. Christian, you got to play Christian. He's our best player. Everyone looks to Christian to solve. So I was like, oh, Malik Tillman. I was Diego Luna, Alex Zende. Oh, Weston McKennie. Yep. Okay, Weston McKennie. He was excellent in this window. And talking about Igor Tudor and everything that happened at Juve and the challenge to get fit and stay fit and his body and his food and all these things. He was phenomenal in these 2 games. And then, it's Flo. But then Haji. Like Haji, Haji off the bench. If he can do this, what about Ajiman? What about Pepe? Where's Sargent in this equation? And then I wrote down names. Gio, if Gio's fit, you got to give him a chance. Eunice, if he starts getting a run, you got to take a look at him. What in the world's happening with Johnny? How can Johnny be at Atletico Madrid and not be an absolute 100% starter here for the United States? I said Pepe, I said Dest, I said Zendejas. Sargent seems like he's on the out.
Happened
just because
fast.
He got kind of bullied against Korea. And that's kind of it, right? So I feel like if how do I think about Tanner and I think about Aiden, 2 players that I really, really enjoyed. Christian, to our converse, like there's not a lot of spots left. So then in my mind, I'm like calculating who can play in what position. Are you a specialist or can you be like a multiple type of position guy? Because I keep going back to Gio, and maybe that's because I got a soft spot because I want Gio to be so good if he can stay healthy. And we got still 6 months time, and you think about the November window and then the March window. Inevitably, someone's going to get hurt with a long-term injury. Someone's going to catch fire. Someone's going to fall off the boil. So I feel like he knows, but he doesn't know, if that makes sense.
Deep.
Sorry.
He knows. He doesn't know. No, it actually does make sense. It does make perfect sense.
I think 70% of it's together.
Yeah.
Whoever it is and whatever. And I think as I went through it this morning, like you just did, it's like goalkeeper's probably locked, but the pool. Center backs, probably the pool is locked. One is locked.
Our pool's really similar, right? Like we have like super elite standouts, and then we have everyone that's like really, really good, and they're all really, really similar. So it's almost like the jeopardy of performance versus the opportunity to stand out. And there's not a lot in between these guys. Like if you said Aiden and Tanner and Christian and James, like all four of those guys performed really well. And you got to plug and play Tyler. So who of those guys is like elite? And I'm not sure I could tell you who I think their strengths are. Like, okay, he's got size and he's got great passing ability. He's got a wand of a foot. Like, he's really clean and technical. By the way, he could play center back if you need it. Like, that's where I'm like trying to separate these guys. And it's very, very slim margins.
One of the things that will be fascinating is I think a lot of it will be club form and playing hot hands. And when the MLS season ends, there's going to be 4 months where Christian Roldan isn't going to play games.
Yeah.
And that's where Tanner Tessman and Morris are going to be playing every week and playing in Champions League or Europa League or the championship, whatever. And I'm curious to see how Mauricio handles that view of them, as well as do some of these players take a loan that they don't need for their careers to try and stay fit or engaged or in the conversation? Yeah. Or is there a January camp? And Mauricio, I think what we saw from the Gold Cup was he very much values the time he spends with the players. So does that actually accelerate you from the MLS point of view, guys, or Liga MX, because you're around him, versus being with a club team that's playing in European competitions?
Yeah.
I have no idea how to judge it.
Well, look at our goalkeepers. I mean, we're going to have if you throw Celentano in the mix, you've got 5 goalkeepers that are going to have a significant break.
Yeah.
So how valuable is creating a January camp where it's not about the World Cup, but it's about like guys getting minutes, guys getting games, keeping in front of you. And then the inevitable, like what happened to Jackson Reagan last year, where he can't go to January camp because they were only going to release him for 1 game because Seattle's like, hey, by the way, we got CONCACAF Champions Cup and we need him over in Spain. And so he doesn't get to be a part of this. And there's like weird trickle down effects that are constantly happening. So I'm like you guys, like, but this was always, and this is my mentality as a former player, like every offseason it was different, right? October, November was MLS Cup final, and the MLS season didn't start until March, April. So I was like, send me to Glasgow Rangers, send me to Bayer Leverkusen, send me overseas, get me a training stint, just so I could keep my rhythm, keep my fitness, keep my sharpness. And some of these guys, they need an offseason as much as the whole conversation over the summer and for the Gold Cup. They needed a break. So again, this is all an experiment in real time. God, I probably shouldn't use that word again. This is all heavy learning curves for everyone involved at this stage going into the World Cup, from the coaching staff to the players themselves, and for those trying to manage their minutes in Major League Soccer.
And that is an example of culture eating strategy for breakfast in real time.
Recreate the culture, don't use the word. Yeah.
Oh, man. Dunny, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and for injecting some really awesome insight and positivity, because I think what you said at the jump, just about feeling really good about where we're at, like let's all lean into it, Like let's lean into the good vibes, the good culture that we're seeing. Real quick, we've got Decision Day coming up in Major League Soccer. Where are you going to be on Decision Day, Dunny?
Yeah, Tio Max and I are going to be out in Portland. We've got Portland Timbers against San Diego FC. It's going to be a huge one. Obviously, San Diego wants to get back up on top of the Western Conference. Phil Neville and Portland, it's that weird nuance of like spending in the summer, late in the transfer window, injuries, form, how to get Da Costa and Velde and all these guys, Mati Rojas into the starting 11, hasn't really panned out the way they expected. And they do not want to repeat what happened against Vancouver in the wild card game where they lost 5-0 at home. By the way, similar record to last year, except their goals and their goals against have dropped significantly, something that maybe we just attribute to a certain player in Cincinnati. But, it's going to be a fun one. Tio Max and I will get to put you asleep like we always do out in the Western Conference.
Cannot wait. Gotta love Decision Day. Dunny, have a fantastic call. We appreciate you. Great to see you. Let's do this again soon, shall we?
Anytime you guys need me, I love you. Got the utmost respect for everything that you guys are doing. And I miss these get-togethers, these impromptus.
We don't get to do
right?
Enough.
Yeah. Usually it's like MLS All-Star or MLS Cup where we're all like in a corner by ourselves, catching up and catching drinks and having a good time. So I appreciate the invite. I love it. Can't wait to be a part of it next time.
Moving along to soccer on the global stage, we have some updates when it comes to the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. We got into it a little bit last week, but since then, there's been some pretty fun storylines to follow. And the big one, I think that a lot of people saw on the socials, Goss, Cape Verde qualify for their first ever World Cup. They beat Eswatini, which I didn't know.
We all learned about it this week in a meeting.
Country.
Thanks to Keon. Yeah.
Exactly. Former Swaziland?
Yes.
Yes, former Swaziland. 3-0. They won their group. Just an incredible story for the Blue Sharks, which is also pretty badass.
Unreal nickname. And
Right?
I believe so they are the smallest landmass country.
Landmass. I was going to say, I think I read second smallest country, but landmass country.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Which could get beaten already. We will talk about CONCACAF in a little bit, but it was epic. And I think we talked about on the last show, all these teams having home support. I think a lot of videos came out of Boston and Rhode Island, which is where there's these massive Cape Verde communities. I used to volunteer with one in college. So I used to work. Yeah, I worked a little bit volunteering time with this program that did cross-cultural events with the Cape Verde community.
No way.
Yeah, I forgot. I probably could have mentioned that last week, which was why I was like, oh, I know this because I'm pretty sure of it. Yeah, there's a lot there. It was someone ran for Passover in Jewish culture. You have a Seder, which is like a big dinner and whatever.
Oh, I've been to a Seder.
There you go. And there was like a huge community of people in Cape Verde who are part of people that were forced to convert, but are called conversos, where they were forced to convert away from Judaism because of the Spanish Inquisition, which spread into Portugal and was a different Inquisition. And a lot of people have these traditions they don't know why they do, like lighting candles in a closet every Friday night. Just a thing my family does, not sure why. And so this person realized the connections with the two communities. So we would do a Cape Verde and Seder every year. And I volunteered and helped organize it twice. And it was awesome because you got to eat food from all these different cultures and all these things, which got me introduced into the community, which is massive in the Boston area. And everyone has these like Portuguese, all the kids, I coached a little youth and like all the kids were like Rivaldo. That was all of them went by that. And now that community is going to get to rock in the World Cup, which is going to be epic. And the team has been growing. They went to quarterfinals at the AFCON. So a lot of the original players that helped push the national team were American born. Like there's like a kid from UMass Lowell who went and played for the national team and like all that stuff. And then I think they've started to recruit a bit more Portuguese born, dual nationals and everything. So it's definitely a program on the up. And they are, as of now, the only debutante out of Africa. So we've got 9 teams that auto-qualified yesterday, and they're the only ones who are new.
That is so cool. Man, I feel like I have learned so much.
This is why the World Cup's the best.
It is the best. It is the best. Fascinating nuggets, Goss. What else do we have in Africa?
Before we get there, do you feel in now? Like, I felt like last week we were like, it doesn't feel like a normal qualifying. Did this week feel
this
like
week,
the
yes,
juice?
because we got some actual, we
got the
I saw, I'm a visual learner.
Yeah.
And so I saw a graphic on Instagram that basically populated all the flags that had qualified, and that was very helpful to me because I was like, okay, now we're getting somewhere.
We all get there in our own way.
100%. So that, yes, I would agree that this week was the week that made me feel like, oh my gosh, this is coming very soon, and the excitement is percolating.
So for Africa, there was 9 groups. All 9 group winners auto-qualified for the World Cup. So all 9 are in, Cape Verde being one of them. The other 8 teams are all teams that we are used to and have seen in this before. So Ghana, Ivory Coast, Morocco, who we had talked about last time, Senegal, Tunisia, Algeria. The big drama on the final week was South Africa, who we had talked about. They were docked points for playing an ineligible player over a year ago in a moment where the other team was like, actually don't dock them points because it was 2 yellow cards over a course of time. No one knew. That's chaos. This is all a problem for CAF because this has happened many times and they're not able to organize it. It still happened to South Africa, and yet coming into this week, they controlled their own destiny. Win their 2 games, and they are going to the World Cup. At a minimum, they were going to the playoff. They came out and they tied Zimbabwe, who were the worst team in the group in game 1, and lost control of their destiny. So they went into the final day needing Nigeria to beat Rwanda, and then needing Nigeria to beat Benin, and needing to go beat Rwanda themselves. Both of those things happened at the simultaneous time. South Africa won 3-0 and Nigeria won 3-0. Now, Nigeria ended up winning, jumping into second place and qualifying for the playoffs, which was why Nigeria had a lot to play for. But for South Africa, it was like, we called it in our group chat with Keon, one of our coworkers who's South African, we called it the reverse Kuva, that it all went for him at the final time. And you're doing the, like, I'm watching multiple screens, I've got FOTMOB up, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And it literally all went South Africa's way for them to qualify, which I would say of the teams I just named that we've seen in the World Cup, outside of Ivory Coast, they've all been in more often and they've had success. And South Africa, it's been a little while. It's been since 2010 when they hosted it that they've been in the World Cup. So it's a really cool moment for one of the big nations. They had an unreal AFCON last year, and we have another AFCON coming up in December. So a chance for like all these teams to test themselves a little bit more. And we are going to be doing a segment here about our favorite moments in the World Cup. And I do think that today is fitting one to talk about the 2010 World Cup, which was the first ever World Cup in Africa. And the opening game, of course, was South Africa at home against Mexico. And Sifiwe Shabalala scored the opening goal, which put them up 1-0. And the famous call is a goal for South Africa, a goal for all of Africa. I literally have chills thinking about it. And it's one of the great goals. Like, ball is just blasted into the top corner at full speed, and the building goes nuts. And it's like, I remember where I was watching that game. I was in South Street Seaport at a watch party that I think Adidas hosted. And it's just like, that kicked off that World Cup. And you were like, this is the first ever World Cup in Africa. What's it going to be like? And that's probably South Africa's greatest World Cup moment. And I think it's one of the great moments all time in World Cup history. And now South Africa is back. So the Bafana are back on the menu.
Let's go. That is exciting. I love that. Love it. Okay. UEFA, should we chat a little bit on UEFA? Okay, so England is the only team that has absolutely qualified, right? Because they absolutely destroyed Latvia 5-0. So they're
Thomas Tuchel can borrow my
that is
borrow
very
my
Thomas
sweater
Tuchel.
for
Very Thomas Tuchel. Okay, so England are in, but also happening in UEFA. If you look at Group L, there is another teeny tiny little nation that's still in it. The Faroe Islands. The Faroe Islands could still qualify for the World Cup. This is bananas, but they beat Czechia 2-1, and then which basically forced Czechia to fire their head coach. Like, it was like that terrible of a result for them that the head coach got fired.
There is not a lot of breathing room for these teams. So, like, that loss could be it for them.
Yeah. So the Faroe Islands, I think they need to get either a draw or win against Croatia next month, which is going to be a tall task because Croatia's pretty darn good. But they're sitting in third in their group. So there's always a chance. Always a chance, Gus.
And this is like a program, Faroe Islands, where you're like, this is not a team that has any chance. So all of this is like huge and something, a space they've never been in before.
Yeah.
And we came into last week talking about Croatia, Czech Republic, or Czechia being the big game for first place. Now we're coming out of the week talking about Faroe Islands knocking off Czechia. They're firing their coach, and they're like hoping to sneak in over the Faroe Islands. That is a 6-day span where absolutely everything has changed in their reality, which is wild to see. Another small country, by the way, but one we're more used to. Iceland had a big win. And so Iceland and Ukraine right now are fighting to be the playoff team behind France. And I think a lot of people are probably rooting for Ukraine. I would be one of them.
Yes.
But Iceland have great now history as the small nation in tournaments. So I think either way, it's going to be fascinating to see who ends up coming out of this one. And then the weirdest story in UEFA, one that I don't fully understand well enough to fully explain, but I'm going to do my best.
Maybe if we talk it out, you can make sense of it.
So in Group H, Austria's group, the way the World Cup qualifying in UEFA will work is all 12 group winners, they clinch a spot in the World Cup. Then 16 teams are going to go into a playoff UEFA only, and there's going to be basically 4 mini tournaments. So 16 broken down 4x4, where you'll play a semifinal and a final, and each of those winners will go to the World Cup. So coming out of 12 groups, you have 12 second-place teams that are in that. Where do you get the other 4 teams? Is the other 4 teams come from the best UEFA Nations League, which is a different competition that was already played. Best UEFA Nations League teams that didn't qualify as second-place teams. And the way that's ranked is, I think it's Nations League. The Nations League is built as 4 different tiers. So like the biggest teams are in A, the next teams are in B, C, and then D. All of the A teams that played well, they will qualify for the playoffs if they don't make it. But all of them are going to make it because we're talking about England and Germany and Spain and Portugal. Yeah. So then after that, everyone who won their group going in order is auto-qualified as one of the 4 teams, but there are more than 4 of them. This is all to say that San Marino, who are the worst team in the world, they won League D in UEFA Nations League, which was between them, Gibraltar, and like Liechtenstein. And if there are only 3 other Nations League table winners who don't qualify via second place or first place, San Marino will qualify for the playoffs. Which is wild because San Marino are on 0 points with a negative 31 goal differential. But where it gets weirdest is they are in a group with Austria, Bosnia, and Romania. Austria are in first, Bosnia in second, Romania in third. Romania are a UEFA Nations League table winner. Right now, San Marino are 5th on that list. So they need one of the teams who are ahead of them from Nations League to qualify via another path for them to sneak in. Romania are 3 points behind Bosnia. They play Bosnia in their next game in the next window, and then they play San Marino in the final game. And there is a decent chance it comes down to goal differential. For what I am saying is San Marino may have to lose as badly as possible for Romania to qualify so that San Marino somehow qualifies for this playoff, which, by the way, there's like no chance they get out of. But what the hell? Get in there and see what you can do.
Oh, my God.
And The Athletic wrote this up and then put a section in about FIFA and match fixing and losing on purpose and all of this. Like, we are so far in it now. It is wild.
Wow. Hey, you did really well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Because there was a lot of like moving pieces within that whole scenario.
So Bosnia and Romania will play each other. Okay. Romania are 3 points behind. And then Bosnia will play Austria, who are in first.
Okay.
Who will probably need to win at home in the final game. So the idea here is, in the final game, Romania needs to win, and then they need to up the goal differential. Right now, it's a difference of 3. Now, as I said, San Marino has a negative 31 goal difference. So, like, losing 4-0 is not absurd. They just lost 10-0 to Austria and 6-0 to Austria. I don't think this is the way they intended to build this, and my guess would be this never happens again.
Woo!
Yeah.
Man, that is some wild stuff. Wild stuff. I love World Cup qualifiers. Okay. Where else should we go? CONCACAF? What's happening in CONCACAF?
Our Suriname.
Oh, Suriname.
Yeah. They were up 1-0 in Panama, and in the 96th minute they gave up an equalizer.
No!
So they still control their own destiny, but it's made a little bit harder. They play El Salvador in the next game, and then they finish on the road at Guatemala.
Okay.
And Panama do the reverse. So they're both tied on 6 points. Right now they're ahead on goal difference, but if they had finished that out and won 1-0 on the road, It would have
Dang.
stretched the lead. They would have been in pretty safe territory.
Okay.
So I like Panama. I like their coach. I like Coco Carrasquilla. I like a lot of what they do, but it was going to be cool for Suriname that we're kind of in that thing. So it didn't go perfectly for them, but it went well overall. And then the other group now that's up in the air is that Curacao went and beat Jamaica in the opening of this window.
Wow, yeah.
Jamaica then crushed Bermuda, and then Curacao dropped points at home to Trinidad and Tobago, which is tough. But Curaçao's 1 point behind Jamaica with 2 games to go. And the final game is Curacao at Jamaica to close out World Cup qualifying for CONCACAF in November. And if, let's say, both teams get the same result in the game going into that, it would be a 1 point difference. So it would be winner gets through, Jamaica gets through on a tie. And Curacao would be the smallest geographic country to ever qualify for a World Cup, which was why we alluded to that in the Cape Verde conversation, which is a huge story. They haven't really... They just started playing full internationals 10 years ago because they are an overseas protectorate of Netherlands or whatever phrase they use.
Yeah.
And a large chunk of the players are born and raised in the Netherlands. But the Bacuna brothers, Leo Bacuna played in the Premier League for a while. His younger brother, Juninho, plays in Turkey now. They're part of it. And there's a lot of really good players on this team. And Dick Advocaat is now the coach.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very Dutch. Very cool.
Dutch.
And apparently it's beautiful, Curacao.
It is. It's it's where, blue Curacao? Orange Curacao? What's the drink?
Blue Curacao.
Blue
Which,
Curacao.
I just got a hangover saying
Yeah. They would be offended by that, I'm sure.
Well,
because I assume people who use it correctly are not just the
Exactly. But this is
champagne.
My knowledge of it is there was a drink in college called the Fishbowl. There's a bar called R&R's, and it was one of those big, literally fish bowls where you put 12 straws in, and there was a huge amount of blue Curacao in that because it was blue, and so
and to make something fakely blue, you need to put a lot in.
That's where my head goes. So I would love to travel to Curacao and just kind of debunk that sort of stereotype that I have in
100%
my head about it.
Let's go. Let's be there.
Exactly. I'm all in. And then anything Asia was basically wrapped up.
Well, Asia now is in their playoffs for their intercontinental playoff spots. So there's 2 spots left, and there's 2 groups of 3, and they're playing just inside of each other, you play everyone. And so that isn't decided yet, but because of what happened this round, just nothing's decided, which I think makes it as interesting as possible, you could argue. So we are into a round now. Oh, maybe it did happen and I was wrong. Yes. No, never mind. I was wrong about all of this. So Qatar and Saudi Arabia clinched their spots at the World Cup.
Okay.
And now UAE, Iraq play a 2-game playoff for a spot in the Intercontinental playoffs. So Qatar and Saudi Arabia are in the World Cups.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
It was slightly anticlimactic. The big game was Iraq played Saudi Arabia in the final game, and it was a 0-0 tie, which held Saudi Arabia's spot atop on, I don't know. So, yeah.
Goss, let's turn our attention to the U.S. women's national team because they have some upcoming friendlies against Portugal and New Zealand, and they just dropped their roster for this camp. So let's get into some of the names on this list.
Camps
now.
Camps on
camps. We can't get enough.
Yeah.
Give me all the camps.
Not
all
at
the
all.
camps. Okay. Any standout names for you when you take a look at the names on this roster?
I think it's so obviously we should state right now because people I think are getting stuck between the two. The U.S. women's national team is playing for a World Cup in 2027.
7 guys.
So people
27.
keep asking when are you going to lock the roster and all of that? And we just had that conversation about Mauricio Pochettino doing it for the 26 World Cup, and he's not even there. But Emma Hayes has said, okay, the year of 26 is going to be this is my group for the most part. This is who I'm working with. And I think this roster that we see right here is the start of that. It's not everyone. Naomi Gurman available for this. Obviously, we know 2 of the 3 of Triple Espresso are not playing this year. They're on maternity leave. So there's more space in this for other players, but this feels like the real fusion of the testing, experimental rosters we've seen over the last 4 or 5 months, plus your top players that this thing is built around. And part of that was the European season that they gave Lindsay Heaps, they gave Lily Johannes time off, and now they're back in. But I think this is, if you had guessed and put together a group, I think you would have come close to this, which is you have the big names at the top, and then you have the players who over the last few camps have proven that they deserve to be in it. And so an Emma Sears gets pulled back into the team. A Claire Hutton makes it again. Olivia Moultrie, right? These are the players who are filling in for some of these stars and are also pushing them and will probably be the depth options when those stars return if they're able to hit the highest levels again. So I think this team is pretty close to what I would have expected. Minus maybe 1 or 2 surprises.
Let's talk about that. Who are you surprised about?
Well, Kennedy Wesley's the big one, is the only debutante on this roster. Center back for San Diego Wave. They were the best team in NWSL to watch and play, and biggest surprise for the first half of the season. And they have been arguably the biggest disappointment in the second half of the season. And so now she makes the roster. And that's obviously the full breadth of work over the course of the year. A center back who has played in both center back roles for San Diego. I look at this and I think, along with Tara McKeown, who has worked her way into this team, they're both players who play on teams that like to play out of the back and like the ball. And I think Emma sees those attributes and is like, I can figure out the other parts of this, or I can figure out pairings for them. But that's the thing I'm missing. And whenever we have this conversation, you're always in the back of your head thinking, well, if healthy, Naomi Gurma's a starter. So you're like almost testing partners for her without having her be there. And I think this is another example of that. I'm a little surprised even that I thought maybe her partner, Kristen McNabb, would have a shot at this and was one of the players I thought over the course of the season maybe should have been in this conversation. But it sounds like Wesley got the step up. And then Kayla Sharples, it sounds like Emma Hayes mentioned, was another player who had a chance at this. She's been injured recently, and Kansas City, now with nothing to play for, has been resting her. But we've talked about Sharples a lot on our SoccerWise NWSL show, which will be coming out later today. She is, everyone in Kansas City says she's the voice and the leader of the backline. She's like one of those perfect players who you could see at the right time could be the right option. And so it's good to know that Emma's looking at her.
Awesome. Big opportunities for some of these players. Worth noting, David Goss, in relation to the U.S. women's national team, Christen Press announced her retirement.
Wow.
Today. After the 2025 season, she's hanging up the boots. 155 appearances for the U.S. women's national team. She scored 64 goals. Goss, when she was healthy, before injuries kind of just let her down, man, was she one of the most exciting players to watch, or what?
Yeah. We talked when we did our 50 States of Soccer about New Jersey, about Tobin Heath, who now they, of course, are a couple. But irrelevant of that, I think Heath, I kept saying, was like 1v1, the most entertaining player. Press was right there, but Press then also was a natural center forward if you wanted her to be. And so she was a true goal scorer, as well as creativity and footwork and all of that. And so she found her way into the national team playing out wide, came inside, and across her club career played on both. And she was box office stuff. Like, it's the type of soccer player you want to watch. It's the type of player the U.S. hasn't produced a ton. And she was the face of the national team in the league, I think, for a lot of times over the last 10 years.
Yeah, just silky. I mean, on the ball, she was just spectacular and so fast too. Like, I feel like she never got credit enough for her speed. She could just accelerate like nobody. It was, gonna miss watching her. And so she said this today, and I think this is interesting, and regarding her retirement. She said, I feel a mix of everything. There's relief, there's joy, there's excitement, there's fear. There's so much grief. I have so much grief, a part of me, a piece of me. I'm losing her. And gosh, that hit me like straight in the feels when I read that, because I think it's something that most players who have played at a super high level and who eventually come to the end of their careers probably go through feelings like this. But I've not heard it really articulated just so poignantly at the announcement. You know, it's one of the, it feels like it's one of those things where you kind of have to process it for a bit. And for her to be kind of grieving the loss of, this part of her life. And I think probably because she's been, dealing with injuries a ton for the last few years, she's probably been doing that processing already. But that that kind of knocked me sideways when I read it.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know Christen Press, so I'm guessing, but I think her role in the team, even with injuries, like we saw coming out of Savvy King's medical issues, but in general, it feels like she has become a leader for a lot of young players. So I wonder if in that experience as well, you're looking at it saying like, oh, right, mentally I've shifted. Like this is what I used to be like, and now this is where I am now. And I sat on a stage with Megan Klingenberg and Landon Donovan on Friday, and they talked about retirement. It's your identity. It's what it's not what you do. It's who you are. It's so much of your drive. And it's such a bizarre phrase to say, like, you're retiring at 31, 32, 35, like any of this. This is when other people begin the real stretch of their careers or focus on it or whatever is that next stage of life is. So it's really tough for these players. It's, I think Landon, his line last week was like, you will never replace the experience of playing professional soccer, whether it's your focus and passion or joy from that, or the experience of playing in front of thousands of people. Like, even if you are a TV host and you're in front of crowds, it's just not the same.
100%.
So it's so hard to step away from. And I thought, I saw one of the lines Christen said was, I thought I would step away when I was done wanting to play, and I don't think that will ever happen. So now you have to kind of acknowledge, all right, when is this done? But I will say one of the things I thought about today, and you look at it with this roster, the Olivia Moultries, the Lily Johannes's, the Claire Huttons, like, the players coming up that were like Christen Press back then, is their experience is just much better now. And so I think you could say Christen Press is one of many people, but one for sure who has left the game, but the culture around it and the society around it much better than when she joined.
Amen. Wishing her the absolute best in this new chapter. We love you, Christen Press. Okay, David Goss, time for our 50 States of Soccer tour to continue. This week, our focus is Arizona. So my knowledge of Arizona has nothing to do with soccer. It was where my family and I went every spring break to watch the Cubs spring training in Mesa. So I've spent a lot of time in Arizona, but not in a soccer sense. So we've come to discover that there are actually some really pretty incredible and talented players that have emerged from the state of Arizona.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent. There is, of course, Phoenix Rising now, who have sort of filled in the void for professional soccer, and they are normally one of the first team name when you say, who's the next expansion city, whatever. I think a lot of the issues for them has been building a big building. Is there a roof? Is there not? And now it feels like USL Division 1, if that ends up being a thing, will be where they'll land, which is awesome because that club, like, it bounces when they're good. They're a huge deal. They have great success. They've been to multiple championships, Didier Drogba, like all of that stuff. But before that, it was a youth soccer hotbed, and a lot of players. RSL originally built their academy there, which Greg Vanny and Robin Fraser were in charge of, and then eventually moved it back up into Salt Lake City. So there was a lot of Arizona players coming through that setup. And the list of players we have is like wild. Julie Ertz at the top of it.
Oh, yeah.
Luis Robles, the Iron Man, Jess McDonald, Brad Evans, Richie Ledesma, Pablo Mastroeni, Ashley Hatch. Like, these are all players where they would all be top of other states' lists, and we're going to have to cull this down to a 5. So anyone who has any other names that we're missing, and I'm sure we are missing some,
we definitely are.
Feel free to send them to us, as well as for our scouting report. We've got a couple bars, one in Scottsdale, K. O'Donnell's, one in Phoenix, the Crown Public House, Any Hallowed Grounds, Best Youth Clubs. As I said, RSL Arizona still exists as like a separate entity, but Arizona Arsenal Soccer Club is one of the big ones that's come up. And then Rival State for Arizona as well, which I don't know. I guess if you ask me in abstract, I would guess like New Mexico or Utah.
Yeah.
But I'm not from there, so I don't know. So that's why we ask other people.
We don't know. So yeah, guys, let us know. Hit us up on Blue Sky, our socials, and then hopefully we can have a better discussion on it and put some pins in this at our Thursday happy hour, 5:30 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel. All right, Gus, last but not least at all, the Great British Bake Off recap. Woo, boy. Let's talk about Pastry Week, shall we? Wow. This one is tough. I love Pastry Week because I feel like Pastry Week, like if you can make pastry well,
the lamination.
You are a legitimate baker. Exactly. It's all about the lamination. Also, I had to look up, and this shows you how much I bake. I was like, what's the difference between a rough puff and a
They
short
say
crust?
it all the time, and they're like, oh, I'm going rough, I'm going full, all of that. Yeah. I don't know any of the phrases still. Hot water crust, none of it.
Hot water. I know all the things.
I haven't learned a single thing, but I still love watching the show. The drama this week was that Tom, who has arguably been top 2 every week, was on the verge of going out.
He was. Rough week for Tom. Pastry Week almost finished Tom, which we were not expecting because he has been so solid. But his showstopper ended up saving him. The intricate sculpted tart that they were tasked with. He saved himself, but it was not looking good for our boy Tom. Jasmine, though. I mean, Jasmine's got to be the front runner at this point, right?
Like breaking records as level of front runner.
How many Star Bakers has she won?
I think they said 3. Yeah, the hat trick. Yeah,
she's so good. She's unflappable.
And this week you're like, oh, she was good, not great, but no one else is great. Aaron can't be consistent. That's the question with Aaron. There's greatness in there.
I know there is.
Can he put all of it together? And every time he thinks he's going to get the handshake, and they're like, everything's so great, don't love the flavor, or oh, this flaked off, and you're like, you are so close.
So close.
And now there's a lot of weeks where he was close that we're just waiting for.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be able to take it above the line. I kind of felt for Natalia, who I loved, who ended up getting eliminated this week because she didn't do badly this week.
Her final one, the Swan, was impressive.
It was beautiful, but like we're just at the point in the show where everyone is very, very good, and she was fine. She did well, but just like the other bakers were better. That's how it goes.
So now it feels like you have like Ian and Toby and like Leslie probably are the like next 3 where it's like, can one of them be great and challenge, or is it like a gap between Aaron, Jasmine, and Tom, and then those 3? That's where it feels like to me right now.
Agreed.
But they are all close enough that, like, again, Tom made mistakes, and you're like, oh, whoa, he might be out. Mm-hmm. Which they are. Sometimes I get mad because I think they don't bring in other weeks at all. And then other times I'm like, no, that's probably how it should be. But like I watch Top Chef, and there's a lot of definitely combos in Top Chef where it's like,
oh, we're gonna have to do this for Top Chef as well, by the way. I think I watched every season of Top Chef.
We went to a Tristan takeover. Yeah, he's doing the Red Rooster in Miami, which is one of my favorite restaurants. A Marcus Samuelsson restaurant.
I applied, Goss, to be. So they're filming the current season of Top Chef right now in the Carolinas, in North Carolina and South Carolina. I am not that far, and I literally applied to like go to one of the
to be a taster. Yes. I don't know how any of that works. Like when they do the like 350 people,
and I applied, and I had to give a reason, and so I literally like wrote a diatribe about.
You have to give a reason. What do you have to
and I was like, dude, I've been watching since day one. Yeah. Like, what do you want from me?
What's the reason? Is me. I'm the reason. Yeah,
I'm the reason. So yeah, side note. But yes, Great British Bake Off. Very, very fun. We're getting to the nitty gritty. I want to give a shout out to Leslie though, because I think both of us have kind of written her off.
I questioned her completely.
And our girl did pretty darn well this week. So we'll see. I don't know what it is next week. I don't know what the theme is either. Next week.
It's always exciting when I find out at the last second.
Oh, so good. Also, Gala pie, not for me. Thank you very much. No.
That was the most British thing ever.
Disgusting.
They're like, oh, let's make a loaf of pork, like ground meat with the hard-boiled eggs baked down the middle. And I love those when they do them where you're like, okay, so it like is this thing, and then they like don't know how to differentiate, and so they're like, oh, leaves, good, not good, and you're like, I don't know that counts as like being we were on vacation this weekend, and we were like, let's watch the Great British Bake Off.
Of course
like,
you
perfect.
do.
Yeah.
It's a great, you know what? It's a great little nightcap. You get in bed, pull up your laptop.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. So good. Guys, thank you so very much for listening, for tuning in. Make sure you check out all of our latest episodes of Soccer Wise Kickback Committee. We've got our happy hour coming up on Thursday, again, 5:30 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our newsletters, do all the things, but mostly have a fantastic week, everybody. We'll see you next time.